Evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Washington County Board of Education. I call to order this meeting and declare a quorum. We have all members present, along with our student board member. It's my pleasure to introduce Aswan Hughes, a fifth grade student at Eastern Elementary. Aswan will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Aswan?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Hello again, Aswan. Thank you for being here this evening and for leading us. Do you have some folks with you this evening that you would like to introduce?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
My parents here, my mom and my dad, they were the ones who guided me and filled me with, all my manners, I would say, and all my education. They were the ones who taught me when I was small. And they're just really good people. I would also like to introduce my principal, Mr. Fowler, and the vice principal, Ms. Bowman. Mr. Fowler, he's a really nice principal. He speaks very clearly, and he's a good person. Really nice, he's a good person to run a school. And Ms. Bowman, she's new here, and I'm sure she'll be a great vice principal for the school. Yes.
Well, Aswan, those are certainly wonderful things to hear about the people who are heading Eastern Elementary, and what a fine job your parents have done to raise you in such a way that you make them proud. You make us proud to have you as a student, Washington County Public Schools. So when you're at Eastern Elementary, what kinds of things do you enjoy?
I enjoy math, and the reason why I enjoy math is because it's challenging, and it's pretty hard to some of the equations, they're pretty hard to solve, and they're really interesting, and it really gets your mind working. So I like to do math because it will make you smarter, and it's a good thing to know about in life.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And when you're not in school, what kinds of things do you enjoy doing?
I enjoy to do arts and crafts. Not really arts and crafts, but I like to sketch in my notebook because it's something that I love to do, and it's one of my talents. And my parents always tell me, instead of working and stuff, and when you wake up in the morning or wake up in the night, I don't want to go to work. It's so hard. So there's a lot of people in the world who do the same stuff as me, draw, and they make millions of dollars, paintings. It can be a splatters, and it can cost millions of dollars. It's really interesting. And I also like to, outside of school, I like to exercise sometimes. But I like to exercise, and I like to work out. I like to play basketball and football. I'm starting to get into football because those sports are really good to me, and they're just fun. So I like to practice and get better as I go.
Great. Colleagues, do you have anything that you would like to ask?
Sounds like you'd be a great public speaker.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
The same thing. Anyone else have anything they'd like to say?
I was just going to say, I'd like to see you challenge Mr. Fowler to a one-on-one game of basketball. He used to be a pretty good basketball player, but now he's up there in age, so he probably doesn't move as fast as he used to and stuff. But I'd like to see that, so if you do that, let me know. I want to come. I'll referee. or something for you.
He did promise me to a one-on-one game, but he hasn't done it yet.
Challenge is public now.
Well, as one, I can't testify to his basketball playing skills, but you mentioned that he's a pretty good principal and a very clear speaking principal. I can tell you he's an awesome teacher because I had the privilege of going into his classroom and observing him as his supervising teacher. And it just makes my heart swell to see him sitting there as an administrator in 2022. So maybe you could get him to teach a class for you sometime.
I was just going to put a plug in for two things. I was going to refer to May here because I think in how many years you'd make an excellent school board member, student board member. And May also goes to the Barbara Ingram School for the Arts. And so if you're into sketching, so go ahead, May, you can plug away. But
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I go to school with some really talented people, and some of the arts department, there's art hanging around the entire school, and there's some great sketches. So if you're super passionate about sketching and art, you should totally come on over to VISPA. They'd love to have you. Everyone's super nice, and the teachers are also great.
All right. Thank
sure
you.
they'd be happy to say you're around too.
Yeah, yeah.
So Aswan, thank you again for being here, for leading us in the pledge and the moment of silence. We appreciate it. We hope you have a great rest of your school year. This time, I'd like to recognize the presence of a guest this evening. We have Commissioner Charles Burkett with us this evening. Commissioner Burkett, it's nice to have you here. We'll move to approval of this evening's agenda. Is there a motion, please? Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Any discussion of the agenda? All those in favor of approval? Okay, we have a unanimous vote. Student member concurs, so we have an approved agenda. This time we'll have approval of the minutes.
Mrs. Williams, I move for the approval of the work session minutes dated Tuesday, October 18th, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Gaspard. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of the work session dated Tuesday, October 18th? Okay, then we'll move to the vote. All those in favor of approval of those minutes? All right, we have 6 affirmative, abstention, 1 abstention, and the motion carries.
My second motion is for the approval of the closed session minutes dated October 18th, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Gessert. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. All those in favor of approval of the closed session minutes of October 18th, 2022? Mrs. Murray, was your hand up?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Abstentions? 1?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And on the third motion, I move for the approval of the business meeting minutes dated October 18th, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Gessert. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Are there any additions or corrections to the business meeting minutes of Tuesday, October 18th, 2022? Okay, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor? Okay, we have 6 affirmative. Any abstentions? 1. And the student member concurs with the affirmative. Thank you. This is the portion of our meeting where we have public comment. We do have 2 individuals who have signed up in advance. That's not a requirement, but we do appreciate knowing in advance who's going to speak. Before I call the first person on the list, I'd like to read from Board Policy KD. This is from the section on policy statement and procedures. Under A, procedures for business meetings. Number 1, each person wishing to address the Board of Education is encouraged but not required to sign up prior to the meeting and may address any topic concerning Washington County Public Schools except personnel or student matters which clearly identify an individual or individuals. Each speaker may speak for up to 5 minutes. And Mr. Bickford is our timekeeper. Mr. Bickford, would you like to explain that process?
I'll hold up the yellow when you have about 30 seconds left, and then red is to wrap it up.
So at this time, we'll have Commissioner Burkett come forward. Charlie Burkett in this case, okay.
I will not do as well as that young man just did.
You're welcome to
Sure,
sit
sit
at the
down.
table if you'd be more comfortable there. You may sit or stand.
Good evening, Board. It's finally kind of nice to be in your house. I wanted to come before you because of a situation I ran into yesterday. After sitting on the Board of County Commissioners for almost 2 years now, there's this constant issue of budgeting, teachers' pay, and things like that. And last year, when that was going on, I heard all about, the teacher shortages. And so I thought instead of, just hearing about it, I wanted to be a part of the solution. So last fall, I made the decision to become a substitute teacher. And I thought, it'd be a way of giving back and instead of just talking about the issue. And first of all, I would encourage anybody to sign up to be a substitute teacher. It was a neat experience, which I hope to keep doing for a little while at least. But as I went into the school yesterday, my concept when I was in school and what I found yesterday was very different. And it was so different that I went back this morning to thank the teacher who has the normal class that I subbed for. When I went in, that carpet was as clean as the carpet in front of you. When I left at the end of the day, there were broken pencils everywhere. There was erasers everywhere. And I was curious. I said, is this because there's a sub in here? And I was told, no, it's not. This is a regular occurrence. And now the encouraging thing, I guess, was I was told that I could always pick up the phone and have a student removed. But I thought if I would have done that, I probably would have ended up out of a class of 20, maybe having 5 or so students left. And anyway, I don't know how we fix the problem. One comment that I heard from a teacher was they need their hands untied. They need to be able to issue consequences. And that's not happening. And that's not going to happen with guards. It's not going to happen with, I forget what they're called.
SROs.
Yeah,
SROs.
yes.
School
It's
resource
not,
officer.
it's not going to happen with them. I mean, the teachers are in there, and they're the ones that take that home every night. And I'm not saying any of this to disparage the school system or to discourage anybody from signing up. I just said I would encourage you to do it. I did after I got home and relaxed a little bit. It was a rewarding day, and I even told the teacher this morning that I'd be more than willing to go back to that class. So anyway, I don't know what you can do. Dr. Savine, I know that you're new, and I just don't know all the regulations that you got to deal with, but boy, that was a tough day, and I was told that's not the only class, and this is a rural school. So anyway, appreciate your time. Thank you. And by the way, I just told your husband I'd love to do lunch again, even if I'm not commissioner, so hopefully that doesn't count me out. So, God bless, guys.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you. Our next person on the list is Ashley McCusker. Ms. McCusker? Good evening.
Attention parents, I repeat, attention parents. This message is not appropriate for anyone under the age of 18. I have passed out to you the form you require parents and students to sign stating we have read and will follow the code of conduct and the school-based rules. I am asking that you be held to the same
Mrs. McCusker,
standards.
could you speak up a little bit more?
I am asking that you be held to the same standards you place upon us and sign the form as well. I would also like to point out that you are not currently following the code of conduct. If you look at the next page I have presented to you, you will see the highlighted area states users will not use the school system network to access, write, or publish materials that depict profanity, contain sexually suggestive messages, or is sexually explicit or obscene. Now I already know the rebuttal. This is the rules for technology and online use of electronics. My question is, why is this only a rule for online? More importantly, why do you get to distribute the type of material that is against the code of conduct? This isn't the first time you have been presented with the filth that is currently in high school libraries. But the question remains, why are you allowed to present it? The next thing you will say is there is no pornographic material in the schools. My personal feeling is there is. Just because we don't have picture books doesn't mean we don't have a written form of porn. Even if we split hairs and decide it is sexually explicit, it still goes against your code of conduct for us. I cannot fathom how you can even argue with us that this sort of book should be available for minors. To the people at home, you are being lied to. You are being told we want to burn books, and it is because we are bigots. I will let you make up your own mind as to if this sexually explicit or pornographic in nature, and why the board is currently split 4-3 on doing anything about getting them out of our high school libraries. He reached his hand down and pulled out my dick. He quickly went to giving me head. For the first few minutes, we dry humped and grinded. I was behind him with my stomach on his back as we kissed. After a few minutes of fun and games, he got up and went to the nightstand where he pulled out a condom and some lube. He then laid down on his stomach. I knew what I had to do, even if I had never done it before. I had one point of reference, though. That was the 7+ years of watching pornography. Although the porn was heterosexual, it was enough of a reference point to get the job done. I remember the condom was blue and flavored like cotton candy. I put some lube on and got him up on his knees, and I began to slide into him from behind. I tried not to force it because I imagined it would be painful. I didn't want this moment to be painful, so I eased in slowly until I heard him moan. We went at it for about 15 minutes before I started to get that feeling. Weakness in my legs, numbness at the waist. I finally came and let out a moan, to the point where he asked me to quiet down for the neighbors. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. Then he also came. Yeah, Earl, I'm gonna eat her pussy. Do you even know how to eat a pussy? Not really. Papa Gaines never sat you down and said, son, one day you're gonna have to eat the pussy? No, but he did teach me how to eat a butthole. I would teach you some pussy eating techniques, but it's a little complicated. That's a shame. I would need diagrams and whatnot. Well, tonight maybe you can draw some up. Son, I don't have time for that. I got like 20 pussies over here I need to eat. Is that right? I'm on a pussy deadline. This book teaches you how to do fisting the correct way and safe way. It also talks about fetishes such as cake farting, balloon fetishes, scat and golden showers, and dinner crushing. Now, to the people watching who are appalled, welcome aboard. To the people whose defense that children will be exposed to this anyway, my reply is, I know. They will more than likely also be exposed to alcohol, drugs, and sex. So should we make these things available at school as well? At what point do we all agree schools should be a safe zone for children? That despite what they might be exposed to on the outside, we protect them from it while they're in school. I have good news though. Next Tuesday, we can change the dynamic of the current Board of Education. Vote for Guestford, Evans, and Lowen and help make school a safe place again.
Thank you, Ms. McCusker. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Good evening.
Sorry I didn't sign up ahead of time. I kind of got delegated. I'm Holly Fairley. I'm a preschool teacher out at Clear Spring Elementary. I've spoken to you guys before. First of all, I want to say thank you for the early dismissals. Oh, my goodness. It's greatly appreciated, along with the half day of grading. Teachers definitely need that. Just want to reiterate, again, class size in our grades 2, 3, and 4, very large. I've already talked about that. A concern some of the teachers are having when we're sending items to printing, they're being denied from some of the department heads. We are highly certified teachers. We know our students, and it goes with we're following the standards, and when we want to find something to supplement, and even in small groups, but we're getting it sent back saying no. It's just a frustration when we're really trying to support what we are doing in the classroom with the essential curriculum that we are following. And I'm pre-K, we do bridges, math, and there are some days where I can get done with that in 10 minutes, and we're into other things, and some of my kids really need some other things just to support. So I don't know where that's going to go, but it's frustrating, and there's been several teachers that asked me to bring that up. And like I said, we are following the essential curriculum, but sometimes just because we know our students, we want to provide some additional support and some additional centers for them to work on. Something else, some of the teachers, a lot of the teachers have been saying, so many meetings we are having to attend. It's stressful because truly after school, we need to be tending to just processing what we did today, getting ready for tomorrow, and making those adjustments for our students, along with parent contacts. The biggest thing that right now has already been addressed, the behaviors. My goodness. I have traumatized little children, especially the first couple weeks of school. Their eyes were as big as saucers, just because of the wild behavior going on. For different reasons, some are legitimately diagnosed with things. One of the classrooms, we had a child in behavioral support for over a year, is now back in the classroom and wreaking havoc. But we have to collect all this data for weeks and weeks and weeks. In the meantime, these kindergartners are being traumatized. For the sake of one, it's a detriment to 19 others. Loss of learning. I had a teammate out, again, pre-K, because of an issue, out of the classroom, had to evacuate the classroom because things are being thrown and just crazy, out of control behaviors. Meanwhile, the teacher is trying to function in another room without her resources. It's just, and I don't have the answer. I have no idea. It's getting worse. We've got teachers I know are retiring. Others are counting down, thinking, okay, I got 2 more years. I never thought I would be one of those because I love teaching, but it's getting so far beyond teaching, where we really have a safe environment for our students. It's heartbreaking. And I don't know if we just need more behavioral support. Something has to give because we've got a lot of trauma going on, and at all levels. I see it in my classroom. I see it. I hear it from the other teachers. I've had the students, and I've seen it go on. So we just need some help. But on a good note, I invite all of you, if you ever want to come and see some beautiful pre-K kids, most days are okay. Just come in with a smile. You'll get lots of hugs. And when chaos erupts, take a breath, and we do yoga. So, and welcome to Washington County. It's a great place to be, despite all the bumps. But thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Quiet.
Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward to speak during public comment?
Good evening.
Good
President
evening.
Williams, board members, Dr. Zavine, and staff. I apologize also for not signing up. I got here right at the bell, so I didn't want to be tardy, and I didn't get to sign up. But I do want to share a couple of thoughts and really place a request on the plate of the board members this evening. Later in the agenda, there is going to be a presentation from the HR team regarding the hiring and resignations and retirements and such. I really hope you allow that data to sink in and really absorb it for this year and kind of put on your prognosticator hat and see if you can have goggles that will look into the future, because this year we've met our teacher needs. We've been able to keep the playing field relatively level, but I really worry that the forecast isn't as bright. There aren't thousands of teachers riding in on unicorns and rainbows coming to Washington County begging to join our classrooms. But it's honestly the most rewarding profession. You've heard me for years talk about it. I love what I do, and I love the fact that my children are products of Washington County Public Schools. But the recruitment and the retention really is a challenge. So listen to your HR team this evening. Look at the data. I've been able to see it, and anybody watching online, you'll see it, but you can access it in board docs anytime. This career, being an educator, really does require so much more than some people are presuming it requires. Mandatory professional development, advanced degrees, countless hours of work outside the classroom, nighttime work, put the kids to bed, and spend hours grading, planning, organizing, weekends, the volunteerism, the coaching, advising clubs and lunch bunches and homework teams, all this stuff happens. We need to continue the little tip of the iceberg we've tapped into with the outside the box thinking. It requires investment, true capital, that physical investment, but it requires that human capital investment as well. We need to be creative and continue with Mr. Haynes and the creative recruitment strategies that are there. We need to target the retention of our current employees. We really need to dig deep and say, you're here, what's it going to take to get you to stay here? Is it compensation? Is it working conditions? Some of what we heard from our speakers. But we need to continue to be outside the box. We need to continue the grow your owns. Look at our current support personnel, of which we have roughly 100 openings right now. Those vacancies, that's costing our young people when it comes to their learning environment. But how can we encourage and reward those current support personnel, our paraprofessionals, who want to become educators, who want to become teachers, school counselors, and social workers? We also need to continue that outside the box thinking that we've tapped into through the LEADS grant. We're not always going to have those grants, but we need to figure out how we can grow our own, look at our young people in teacher academies, but also look at people in the community and say, come to Washington County Public Schools. We'll mentor you, we'll help you, we'll walk you through the process. Because as Ms. Fairley just said, some of what will resolve the issues is more people in the support roles and in the classroom roles, in the school counselor roles, the social worker roles. And I thank you in advance for what I know you're going to do in the budget, what you've already done. I thank you for that. And we need to really look forward and not drill holes in our boat, recruit folks, but then retain them. And I really encourage you to listen to that data tonight, ask questions, go to the HR committee with board member Murray, and find out what do we need to do to recruit, but as importantly, retain. Thank you.
Jennifer. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay, thank you. This time we'll have board member response to public comment. Colleagues?
I'd like to say something, Ms. Williams.
Sure.
To our Ashley, when I first came on the board, I guess it was about 8 years ago, when we were introducing laptops and computers to the classroom. And we had some issues with students sitting in the back of the classroom looking up inappropriate items on Facebook. And I think we had a way to censor that. I think we took there must have been some type of program that we were able to catch words, and we were able to stop that from to coming into our schools. And I think we did a great job at it, because I don't ever remember hearing much of it after that. I don't understand why we have this same issue with books. I will say, I don't care what you do in your home. I don't care what you do in public. That is your business. I don't want our kids to seeing this or hearing that. I am not for that. I don't like it. I wish there was more that we could do, or I could do. I know there's laws saying that we can't do anything. But I just have to say, I wish that we could reverse the fact that, someone could come into our library and just take the book. I wish there was a way that we could say, you can take the book if your parents gives you the right to take the book. I don't know if that ever happened. But I know that we censored those computers, and we didn't allow people to be on those, students to be on that. I just wish there would be some way that we could give some parents the choice of allowing their students to choose if they want to read those books in our libraries, that they would be held back until the parents had the approval. I don't know if it will ever get that way, but I get it. I see your point. To the second speaker about the students, I know Dr. Savine and I have had a few conversations about discipline in the classroom and how we need to really try to take that element away from the teachers, that they can continue to teach the 99% of the students who want to be there. It's usually the 1% that disrupts the class. And I think through his leadership, I hope that we're going to see some improvements through that. I think they're working towards that goal. So I think there's hope. I'm not going to say that it's not going to happen real quick, but I think with his leadership and the team that's around him, I think he's really, he sees the issues. And I'm not looking at him because I don't want to speak for him, but for our conversations that I've had, I do believe he wants to do the right thing, and they're trying. I think the leadership is trying. I don't think they're going to make it happen, quickly overnight. And I know we wish we could, because we know that there's a problem in our society, not just in our school, but everywhere. And we all have, sympathy for our teachers and our ESPs and our custodians who have to deal with that, our secretaries, all staff that have to deal with this on a daily basis. We know we have students that we love. They want to be loved, and I think it's a lot of it. They just want attention. I'm not an expert on that, but I hear what you're saying, and I think Dr. Savine has heard that too.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler. Ms. Murray. And I'd just like to remind you, colleagues, that board members' responses are to be, according to policy, 3 minutes. Thank you.
Mr. Gaspard, you're absolutely right. There was a filter put on the computers. I think there still is. I don't like these books. I wouldn't want to read these books. And I don't even know how they got in our libraries. That being said, we do have something in place. My grandson goes to Springfield Middle. If his mother doesn't want him to read a book, she can go on that website, she can go into that library website, and she can find that book. She can talk to the library media specialist. They are scanned, and she can say, I don't want my son reading XYZ. If he tries to get that book out, it is flagged. He cannot have that book. That's what we have in place right now. So we do have something in place to keep people from getting books that we don't, parents don't want them to read. Did I use my 3
Thank you,
minutes?
Mrs. Berry. Mr. Evans?
So, as far as the behavioral problems that Ms. Farrelly and Mr. Burkett were discussing earlier, I know that's a big concern of mine as well. I actually brought this up at the meeting, the joint meeting we had with the state board the other day, and I personally wasn't too particularly happy with the response, but I do know that internally our staff is working on a solution to this. Unfortunately, with how big and how far the behavioral problems we see expand across our whole school system. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as just turning on a light switch. So I know it's really, really easy for me to sit up here and ask for patience because I'm not in the classroom the way you are on a daily basis. And quite honestly, I agree with you 100%. When I taught for 10 years in Anne Arundel County, and what I did in my 10th and final year was very, very different than my first year. So I agree 100%. You're absolutely right that education itself has changed. A lot of that, quite honestly, comes from what is handed down to us at the state board. But that doesn't necessarily mean we can't make any changes. I'm very confident that Dr. Savine and staff are working on this, and I think you will see a solution soon. As far as the books go, quite frankly, I do think that they're absolutely disgusting. I hope that we never have to hear anyone read about this again. This is the second time we've had to hear this, and it's disgusting. I don't want to hear it. I can't imagine anyone would want their kids reading it. And quite frankly, I'm not so convinced that there are laws in place that prevent us from taking them out. I hope that we can make it easier for parents to be able to go in and ask for at least a review. And I'm not saying that we should absolutely just remove them just because someone says we should. I think we should make the review process much easier and much more streamlined, and I hope that we can make that happen.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Mr. Stowe?
A couple things. One, I'm kind of old-fashioned about discipline and stuff, but I taught high school. And so you can deal a little bit differently with high school students than you can with elementary students. But I'll be very blunt. In my years of experience, over 4 decades in education, one thing I learned is that some parents, and some people aren't going to like what I'm saying here, but some parents just don't do a good job of parenting. They don't discipline their kids at home, and so they bring the same discipline problems into the schools and so forth, and we have to deal with them. There are limits on what we can do and so forth. I just had a conversation with a teacher last night. I won't go into it because of limited time, but she was kicked and so forth, and the child is now in a different placement in the system and so forth. There's more to it than that. As far as the books and so forth, I never knew a lot of kids in my 42 years who went to the school library and got a book just to read it for the fun of reading it. The only time I knew students ever got books out of the library was to either do a research project or to it was a book for a book report and so forth. As Mrs. Murray said, there are systems in place and so forth. I would expect that books would be in the appropriate grade level. Some of the books that were read here tonight, I saw the title of one, I read that. I read about 2 or 3 of the other books and so forth. I have no problem with them being in a high school library because we send kids, they enter as 9th graders, In 4 years, they leave. They go to college where they're exposed to a lot of different things. Some of them enter the armed forces where they go into combat in some cases. Sometimes they get killed. So if we're talking about these books being in an elementary library, that's one thing. Middle school, that's another thing. High school, with the limits. I know there's one book that's been mentioned, was a book called Crank. And so I got that book on vacation in Myrtle Beach back in the summertime, and I read it. And basically, it's about a young lady who gets hooked on meth and makes a lot of bad decisions and so forth. And to me, that's a very appropriate book for high school students, at least, to deal with, because we have Washington Goes Purple and all that type of thing, and the drug issue in this country is bad. And that's a book I would recommend that parents read that with their child and discuss the book. It's written in free verse, and it's brilliantly written. But check it out.
Thank you, Mr. Stiver. Does anyone else wish to comment?
I just want to
Mr.
thank,
Bickford?
sorry, I want to thank Commissioner Burkett. I think it's been very refreshing to have you so engaged in education during your time in office, and the fact that you've also agreed to substitute, I think, needs to be congratulated, because it is part of the problem in the area. We need substitute teachers, so thank you for doing that. I know for me, I ran for the board after witnessing some of the behavioral issues in our classrooms, and I think one of the things that it's hard to say proud, but I am glad that we saw some of the behavioral issues coming into our buildings, because of course we have to take all kids, no matter where they are in their behavioral cycles, and we were one of the first counties in the state of Maryland to have universal pre-K, and now that's becoming law in Maryland. And it's interesting to me when I hear some of the stories we're hearing about behavior. Some of that is almost times back to when we first heard about these serious problems and agreed to have universal pre-K. And it's interesting to me that that's now a movement that's going across the country. So I hope we will start to see the effects of that. And I do think there's one thing you learn in this office is even though the problems are immediate, sometimes the progress is slow. But I do give a lot of credit to our staff, because they're constantly working on it. Even discussions we've had recently, like Daryl, I'm very pleased with some of the things I'm hearing about some plans that we have. Yes, some of it can be solved with more staff and more funding, as you said, and some of it can be solved with training, and some of it just, frankly, the fact that people like you are spreading the word about it and getting it out there. I think you're going to have more people. It's not just a school system problem. It's an everybody problem. It's a community problem. And so I know one of your goals is to build more community support so that other people are willing to tackle these issues even before they come into our building or after they go out of our building. So that's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. There's nothing further with regard to board member response to public comment. We'll move on with our agenda. We have no old business this evening to conduct, so that brings us to new business. Our first item of new business is the approval of the consent agenda. We have Mr. Scott Bakewell here this evening to present that.
Good evening, President Williams, members of the board, Dr. Sovine. Tonight I have 4 items for your review. These items have been reviewed by our Purchasing Review Committee and are being recommended for approval, and staff is available if you have any additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bakewell. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve awards and renewals for Chevrolet, Nissan, and non-OEM parts and repair labor, renewal to various vendors at percentages and hourly rates listed. Vehicle parts, supplies, and service, renewal to various vendors at the percentages and hourly rates listed. A generator replacement at Springfield Middle School to Milton Stamper Builders at a cost of $503,000. and professional design services masonry window replacement at North Hagerstown High School to Bushy Fight Moore Architects at a cost of $52,527.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any questions or any discussion?
Number 3, the generator replacement at Springfield Middle School. I see we're using ESSER funds and so forth for it. I always have a little bit of a, I wouldn't call it a problem, but a concern about program or issues like this that are only bid by one contractor. Is there any way, I guess my question is, how do we know that that is a fair amount for replacing that? Is there any way we could have gone back and said, we're going to open this up again for more bidders? I just wonder.
I mean, the option to rebid is out there. It's just a timeliness in trying to get this work done. I mean, currently generators, I think, are like a 70-week lead time. So in order to, move this project along, we did, we post bids on our website and also the state of Maryland website. I can't answer why we only got one bid. It's definitely, it's out there. We've had, bids in the past for generators that have had more than one bid. This one, we just had the one submission come in.
I think maybe just another add is, and just consulting with Mr. Rollins, is that while it is only one bid, it is close to what was the engineer's estimate for the cost of this project. So we have reason to believe that this is a good bid, even though there's only one bidder. I think we also have to understand that, the marketplace is busy right now. There's a lot of construction going on, and there are limited contractors available.
So I have 2 quick questions for the window masonry replacement in North Hyde. Didn't we just do that, or was that Northern Middle that we just voted on? Or am I just thinking of something that I'm dreaming of?
I think maybe I'm trying to think what other project.
Tell me that I'm dreaming it up.
But this is design work for an item. The window masonry is in the capital improvement plan, has been funded by the IAC, so this is the design work to make that project come to fruition.
Okay. And then the only other one, I was looking, so items number 1 and 2, the vehicle parts repair, $580,000 for parts and labor. That seems a bit high. How many vehicles are we planning on having to work on this year? I mean, that just seems like a large number to budget. And I know that we're not necessarily going to say that we're spending the $580,000, but it just seems like a high budget there.
So that budget is one budget, $290,000.
Oh, okay. I saw it in there twice. Okay.
The bid, we put one bid out, and we didn't get enough participation to give our transportation folks a wide enough berth to basically shop from. So we put a second bid out to advertise for more transportation, repair shops and parts dealers so they had a wider breadth of vendors to deal from. So it's a $290,000 budget.
Between the 2.
Correct.
Okay. That makes more sense.
And that budget line, I think, Scott, correct me, I think that budget line is parts and labor, all repairs within the garage shop. So it's not just White Fleet, but also within Bus Fleet as well.
Right. Okay.
Are there any other questions? Okay, then we'll move to the vote. We're voting on Mr. Bickford's motion to approve the consent agenda. Mrs. Murray's second. All those in favor of approval? Could I see that again? I saw, thank you, I didn't see your hand, Dr. Zentmeyer. So we've got, could we do that one more time? And everybody put their hand in the air. Thank you very much. We have 7 affirmative votes, and the student member concurs. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I had some of these, and I had one that didn't go up. Okay, our next item under new business is the adoption of our board's 2023 legislative program and the approval of our legislative response team members. Our board policy, BJ, states that the board is to discuss its legislative program on an annual basis and our legislative priorities for state and federal legislation and to establish a legislative response team. Colleagues, as you know, we had a public work session on October 18th to discuss our core values, our legislative priorities and initiatives for the 2023 Maryland legislative session. We also discussed the individuals to be considered for appointment by this board to serve as the legislative response team for this legislative session. So now's the time for us to formally adopt our program as discussed in the legislative work session on October 18th. So you should have something in your packet that lists the core values as discussed, the legislative priorities as we discussed, with the addition of one. I asked Mrs. Ram to be here since she was the person to craft that language, should there be any question about that. And there's also a legislative watch list as part of that document. So at this time, I ask for a motion to approve our legislative program for 2023. Is there such a motion?
President Williams, I move to approve the Washington County Board of Education's 2023 legislative program for the upcoming Maryland legislative session as discussed at the work session on October 18th, 2022.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions, any discussion? No? Then we'll move to the vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve our legislative program as discussed in work session as presented here? Okay, thank you. We have 7 affirmative. And I'm now looking for a motion to approve the appointment of Board of Education members Melissa Williams, Stan Stauffer, and Peter Bickford, with Linda Murray serving as alternate if needed, the superintendent, the chief legal counsel, or the chief legal counsel's designee to serve as this year's legislative response team, as we discussed in the work session. Is there a motion?
President Williams, I move to approve the appointment of Board of Education members Melissa Williams, Stan Stauffer, and Peter Bickford, Linda Murray as an alternate if needed, the superintendent, and the chief legal counsel or their designee to the legislative response team as discussed at the work session on October 18th, 2022.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there any discussion? We'll move to the vote. All those in favor? All right, we have 7 affirmative. We have a legislative program and a legislative response team. Dr. Sovine, this is the portion of the meeting where we have your report. So I'll turn things over to you now.
Thank you, President Williams, members of the board. In order for students to be successful, our schools need to meet their needs where they are, academically, emotionally, physically, and mentally. This has become a growing challenge in education today. Our school psychologists play a significant role in that solution, and we'd like to recognize National School Psychology Week, which is happening next week. And at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Patrick Graveland, our Coordinator of Special Education and Board Certified Behavior Analyst, and he will share a few words about the work that our school psychologists do to support our students.
President Williams, board members, and Dr. Sovine. The week of November 7th through the 11th is National School Psychology Week. This year's theme is Together We Shine. School psychologists partner with families, teachers, school administrators, and other professionals to create safe, healthy, supportive learning environments that strengthen communities between home, school, and the community. In Washington County Public Schools, we're fortunate to have a school psychology team who are collaborative members in the school-based teams. In their roles, they support students' ability to learn and teachers' ability to teach. Each school psychologist applies their expertise in mental health, learning, behavior to help children and youth shine academically, socially, behaviorally, and emotionally. A few of these supports include conducting assessments to help school-based teams make data-based decisions, also consulting with teachers around academic and behavioral interventions, and cooperating with other mental health professionals to improve those support strategies. They also support teachers and paraprofessionals develop and refine skills through providing professional learning opportunities. Thank you for the opportunity to acknowledge the WCPS school psychology team and their dedicated work to help all students in Washington County.
Thank you, Mr. Grable. I just want to take this opportunity to extend my appreciation to our psychologists and our student services team. In addition to our psychologists, behavior specialists, and other talented teachers that provide or receive training from our psychologists and other mental health professionals are helping us address some of the very challenging needs that exist in our schools. So we thank you. Also, just like to mention that our schools across the country have been facing a teacher shortage for some time now, many years. And educators are one of the most in-demand professionals. And today, I'm going to turn it over to Tim Haynes, our recruitment and retention coordinator, and Joni Burkhardt, our supervisor of professional learning, who are going to share in their presentation some very proactive and innovative methods that we've been utilizing to attract and retain.
Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Sabine, and members of the board. Joni Burkhardt and I are pleased to share information about WCPS teacher recruitment, hiring, and teacher induction for the 2022-2023 school year. And despite what Mr. Becker said, I am talking to all unicorns, scouring every rainbow I can find, anything I can to find teachers and education professionals. So, start now. All right, this is our, Mr. Becker kind of referred to this already. This is teacher turnover for the last 5 years. So you can see that recruitment efforts are driven by the creation of new positions and teacher turnover. Last year's turnover was the continued impact we've seen from COVID-19, with a 35% increase in overall turnover compared to 5 years ago. These numbers are in line with state and national turnover rates across all industries. WCPS saw an 11% decrease in applications. However, we won't know for another year or two whether this is attributable to declines in college enrollment and graduation rates combined with labor market fluctuations, or if 2020-2021 was actually an anomaly. Due to the COVID-19 variant surges last winter, there was only one in-person teacher recruitment fair. Recruitment was managed once again through a variety of venues, including billboards, truckside advertising, radio, newspaper, social media, email marketing, and traditional mailers. Positions were also advertised on a number of job boards, including diversity in education, education-related services sites, STEM teaching positions, Maryland workforce development, and veterans to teachers programs. I was going to say we were hopeful to return to a full slate of in-person recruitment events, but I was actually invited to my very first one this morning, which is actually our largest, which is PERC. It's the Pittsburgh Education Recruitment Consortium. It's already been scheduled for this March. I've already registered, so we're ready to go, and we're hopeful that this is just the beginning of a return to in-person events, which I think will have an enormous impact on improving recruitment. Next, a very exciting initiative for this year that I wanted to spend a little time on. WCPS was honored to be invited to join the Frostburg State University Maryland Accelerates program this last spring. This is a 13-month accelerated MAT program which allows career changers to student teach for a full year while taking classes during the summer and evenings. WCPS accepted 14 students out of a little over 30 applicants into the program, all of which are having great success so far this year. And they should be well-trained and experienced teachers who will be ready to teach for us full-time starting in the fall of 2023. While that grant with Frostburg ended, WCPS has extended the program for an additional year through state funding, and we're hopeful to welcome an additional 15 new students to the cohort next year. As of mid-October, we had welcomed 171 new teachers to WCPS. Our new teachers come from approximately 26 states, 6 countries, with 16% self-identified as non-Hispanic, non-white. Our teachers earned degrees, bachelor's degrees from 84 different colleges or universities, with our top schools being Frostburg, Shippensburg, Salisbury, Wilson, Shepherd, Towson, James Madison, and McDaniel. 82 of our new teachers already hold a master's degree from 53 different colleges and universities, with those top schools being Frostburg, McDaniel, Liberty, Mount St. Mary's, WVU, and George Mason. This is a slide of this is a historic perspective of new teacher hires over the past decade. There's been a steady growth in new hires that reflects the growth of the county, with the exception of that spike in 2019-20, which was reflective of the board's expansion of our pre-K program. This is a snapshot of most of our content areas, content area hires, including the critical areas of English, math, science, career and technical education, special education, and world languages. And as you can see from this slide, many of our new teachers have a previous connection to WCPS, including 35 substitute teachers. We also welcomed a nice mix of teachers with experience to WCPS, with 55% having taught previously and 45% new to the profession. And at this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to Joni Burkhart, Supervisor of Professional Development.
So thank you for letting me come and talk to you about Teacher Induction Program and Teacher Induction Academy. And I should say thank you to Williamsport High School for hosting 146 new hires, the content specialists, the administrators, the lead teachers, and over 60 community members in the span of 2 days in August. New hires were introduced to Dr. Sovine, Human Resources, the Washington County Public Schools Essential Curriculum, Teacher Induction Program and Mentors, School Safety, Washington County Wellness, Washington County Teachers Association, Student Equity and Learning, and the Greater Hagerstown community helped us celebrate by providing information about local businesses and providing gifts. That was a big hit. On the third day, new hires were also given 3 additional hours to go to their school to set up their classroom and begin looking through all of the resources that were provided. And then right here on Teacher Induction Academy course, Teacher Induction Academy is only one event. We have an entire program. It is a year-long process of both job-embedded and after-school professional learning opportunities. And these are some of the opportunities that we offer first-year teachers so that they can learn, grow, and succeed in Washington County. So we have the academy, we have the course, and Washington County has also provided the structure to hire, train, and retain new hires, and also the best possible teaching force that we can. We rely on the teacher induction mentors, the administrators, the content specialists, the lead teachers, the ed tech coaches, and especially the experienced teachers to create a community of ongoing learning that will increase student achievement.
Thank you, Joni. At this time, we'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Question? Jim, I'm in marketing, I'm not doing this. So I'm just curious, I know we were just recently lauded at the Maryland Association of Boards of Education for having the top teacher salary in the state. So I know that's a big incentive. I'm just curious, though, as you're trying to recruit teachers, what are the other things about our school system, even our county, that are pluses that you think help get them to say yes?
Again, it varies because when you're talking about recruitment, it's not just one type of teacher, it's a variety of things.
Sure.
So I think our community definitely helps. That's something that I push a lot, at least, virtually lately, and will be in person. I talk about the amazing things that our professional development team does. We're very strong in our curriculum, and the way we approach teaching is very attractive to a lot of new and experienced teachers as well. But really getting back to that sense of community, I think Washington County is like a perfect size because we're big enough that we're able to offer all of the excellent things that the best counties do, but we're still small enough that you can feel like you're a contributing part of the community. You get to know your students, your classmates, you get to know other people in central office. You can be actively involved in the community and large nonprofit organizations, all sorts of things, religious organizations, whatever it is that thing outside of school. We offer so many things here, but it's still in that manageable size. And while we do see a lot of growth in the county, it's not to the excess that it is closer to the metro area. And so to me, it's the best of both worlds, and that's what I'm always trying to pitch to anyone that's interested in Washington County.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Sure.
When you go to, you do go to colleges and recruit, right?
Pre-pandemic, yes. Pre-pandemic, that's been limited in the last couple of years.
Well, okay, let's go back to pre-pandemic. When you did that, and you talked to teachers of diverse backgrounds, different races, so forth, this type of thing, when you tried to talk to them about coming to Washington County, what were their concerns about coming to a rural county? What were some of the drawbacks that sometimes turned them off?
What I really found is that they don't really know that much about us. And so even if, I recall one of the in-person events was actually at Frostburg, but they recruit very heavily in the Baltimore City and Baltimore County area.
They do.
And so one of the student teacher candidates that I was talking to, even though she has to drive through Washington County, she did not know where we were. She did not know Hagerstown, so she didn't know anything about the county. So that's one of the things that I'm excited about getting back to in person, so that I can actually talk about where Washington County is, what we have to offer, and just to express to them how diverse our student population is, and how we need to see that representation in our classrooms, and that the impact that they can have in so many students' lives, the positive impact that they can have. And again, diversity can be defined in many different ways, and we thrive on education in this county, we thrive on innovation, and so bringing in new ideas, individuals from different cultures, diversity can be very widely defined, but we're looking for every opportunity we can to give our students the brightest and best future that we can. And we want employees here that believe in that as well.
Mr. Haynes, I just want to say thank you. You're quite a dynamic team, and we're blessed to have you and other team members working in a very innovative and creative way to attract and retain and, most importantly, support the needs of our very talented teachers. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
I'd like to share a few reminders about next week's academic calendar. The end of the first marking period is Monday, November the 7th. Grades will be posted the following week in Parent View and Student View. For middle and high school students, grades will be posted on Friday, November the 11th. For elementary students, grades will be posted on Monday, November the 14th. So parents, if you're not aware of your Parent View account, please contact your child's school to get access so you can follow your students' progress. Also on Tuesday, November the 8th, it is Election Day, and students will not be in school, but our teachers have professional learning activities planned. We encourage members of our community to do their civic duty and vote. Finally, Friday, November the 11th is Veterans Day, and schools will be in session. There are a variety of educational activities planned as we make this day a learning experience for students in honor of our nation's service members. I personally will be attending the Veterans Day ceremony at Clear Spring High School, and I'm certainly looking forward to that. President Williams, members of the board, that concludes my update. I'll remain available for any questions of board members.
Thank you, Dr. Sovine. Board members, any questions for Dr. Sovine before we move on? Okay. Thank you again, Dr. Sovine. We'll move to personnel action. We have Dr. Webster, our Associate Superintendent for Administration and Leadership.
Good evening, Mrs. Williams, members of the board, Dr. Savine. As discussed earlier during closed session, there were several staff changes for your review. At this time, I ask for your approval of today's personnel actions.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
President Williams, I move to approve the personnel actions dated Tuesday, November 1st, 2022, as presented in the closed session.
Murray. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Bickford. We'll move to the vote. We're voting on the approval of the personnel actions dated Tuesday, November 1st, 2022, as discussed previously in closed session. All those in favor? Thank you. 7 affirmative. Motion carries. Personnel actions have been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is reports to the board. We have our committee reports. Dr. Setmeyer, would you like to begin down there?
We'll meet November 21st, 10:30 here.
Thank you. Facilities?
We will not be meeting until after the elections are over, so probably sometime in December, maybe January.
Okay, thank you. Finance Committee?
Yeah, we just met last week. We discussed the hiring of a new position in the accounting office to help alleviate some of the accounting we need to do with this blueprint coming out. So that was a new position we discussed and the cost of it. And we also discussed some upcoming spending items as well. Our next meeting will be after the beginning of the new year, which is also after when we will have our new committees set up. Even if the board is still the same, our committees may change. So we will not have a scheduled meeting here for the next couple weeks. So
Thank you. Human Resources?
Yes, we had planned to meet on November 22nd, but there was a conflict with some committee members, so we will have to postpone that meeting and meet after the first of the year.
Okay, thank you. Policy Review and Development Committee?
Policy meets next Thursday, November 10th at 9:30 a.m. here.
Thank you. Ms. Cruz?
This past week, or last Thursday, we had our first General Assembly. We, as in Washington County Association of Student Councils, Dr. Savine was able to step in and see the great work that WCSAC is doing. There is a parliamentary procedure workshop, and that was super fun. So students got to learn about Robert's Rules of Order and how business meetings are conducted, and that was a great experience.
Thank you.
May I report on the Education Foundation?
Certainly.
I'm the board representative, liaison, ex officio member, whatever you want to say, to the Education Foundation of WCPS. They met on September 13th. I was at that meeting. They met this morning. I was unable to attend because of a family obligation. But their goals, one of the things I said to them was the fact that as a teacher in the system, I knew that the foundation existed, but that was about the extent of it. And so one of the things that came out of that meeting, because others agreed with that, was that we have to become more involved and outreach to the community externally and internally and get the message out about the foundation and so forth. They did have a very successful golf tournament at Black Rock on the 18th, I think it was. Something like that. I worked it. I was in charge of the hole-in-one hole. If you put in a hole-in-one, you got $10,000 and so forth. No one did that, although part of Dr. Sovine's group, he played with a team, and he introduced his 3 teammates. And they were from Frederick County, Virginia, friends of his. So one was the vice president of the board, and Another one was the principal, James Wood. And the other gentleman that was introduced was a man named Mr. Edwards, and he was introduced as having worked for the board in communications and stuff down there. But as I said earlier, I think the man was a ringer brought along to sink the hole-in-one. He came within 2 feet of sinking a hole-in-one. And I think he was a ringer because I think they were going to split the $10,000 if he made it, but that's just my supposition. I don't know that for a fact. But it was a very good, there were a lot of teams there. It was well-run. The new officers are President Beth Moore, who is a CES staff member. The vice president is Matt Hess, treasurer Pam Donahue, secretary, can't read my own writing, Jen Ritter, and the past president is the principal of Boone's Bar Elementary, Eric Meredith. And so there's a lot more to come, scholarships and so forth, so I'll be reporting on a more regular basis.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to miscellaneous business. Under miscellaneous business, we have one item, and that would be our future agenda items list. We have many things coming up at our next meeting on November 15th. There's an update on computer science from pre-K to grades 5. We will be spotlighting our apprenticeships. And we have the second reading of several policies. We will also have a report giving us the 2022-2023 student enrollment and free and reduced meals eligibility rates. Coming up in December, we are scheduled to have a swearing in of elected board members on December 6th. And we have a tentative date of December 7th. That date has not been confirmed. That date is a possible meeting with the Board of Education and the Washington County delegation. So we'll see if that date indeed holds. So those are our future agenda items. So board members, that brings us to board member comments. Ms. Cruz, would you like to begin down there?
I'd just like to say that VISPA has a concert this Thursday at 7:30. Their jazz band, not our commercial band, but our jazz band and our wind ensemble, as well as our orchestra, will be playing. And one of the pieces that we're playing is a march called Americans We, and it's a great piece. So if you don't have any plans, Thursday at 7:30 p.m., you should come on over to the Maryland Theater. Tickets are $5. And see what Washington County is producing.
Thank you. Mrs. Murray?
Yes, yesterday I had a chance to go to Lincolnshire Elementary, and while there I visited the RISE program, and such a great group of kids, but one wasn't so sure that I should come into the room because I didn't have a visitor's badge. So I had to show her my real badge. And after she looked at it for a while, she was convinced that I could come into the room. It was a nice experience. And next Thursday, I'll be going to North High to visit Mrs. Kim O'Kane's CTE hospitality class. And I'm going in to have lunch with them. So I'm really excited about that. So good things are happening in Washington County Public Schools.
Nothing for me, thanks.
Mr. Stopper? Mr. Gessler?
Yeah, the only thing I really have to say is I don't think I'm going to be here until after Veterans Day. So I'd like to say thank you to all our veterans. Mr. Stauffer was a veteran, and he served in Vietnam, and he was a friend of my father. Went to school together, him and my mom. They were
Bring
together.
that up, didn't you?
Yeah, it's all right. So, but I heard many stories about your classmates that went to service, and I thank you for your service of our country.
Mr. Evans?
Yeah, echo Mr. Gessford's thoughts there. I guess our next meeting will be right after that. So thank you to all those who serve, who give us the ability to have these discussions, have these meetings. This is not something that happens across the world. So we're very fortunate because of people like Mr. Stauffer and the people, and Mrs. Entmeyer as well, who give us the ability to have this freedom. So I do appreciate that. I'd like to also thank Mrs. McCusker and Ms. Fairley for staying for the whole board meeting. I know we could ramble on a long time and we get a little boring. Mr. Burkett was able to make it for most of the meeting here as well. So I do appreciate you giving your thoughts, but also staying and hearing what we had to say as well. You know, so we appreciate that, and I know that a lot of times our actions may seem to be a little slow, but like I said, we do appreciate your patience, and just know that we are working towards solutions to the problems that you guys have brought forth. Thank you.
Dr. Zepmar?
If you've already voted, kudos. If you haven't, please, please, please move it to the top of your to-do list. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no comments this evening. Dr. Servine, do you have any final words?
President Williams, just a few comments. I want to commend our student board member, May Crew. I did have the privilege of seeing her in action with the student council. She led a mock General Assembly, and she is just so talented. You serve us well and represent our students exceedingly well, so thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank Mr. Stauffer for lifting up the work of our Educational Foundation. They've had a very successful golf tournament. It's the first annual. I would have never guessed that was the first golf tournament they put on. It was just a phenomenal event, all to raise funds to support the innovative work in our schools and to support our teachers. And so I thank you for that. And yes, I benefited from a very talented team on the golf course. And just as during the day, my professional career, I want to give a shout out to our senior leadership team and all the leaders in our schools and our teachers, because we have exceptional people that are committed to serving the needs of our children and our community. And we do have much to be proud of in Washington County Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Servine. Colleagues, anything else? Okay, then we will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.